World News Review. My name is Ola. I'm the founder of the Money Meet Club and also the founder and the CEO of olaoladile.com. With both expressions, we are basically focused on helping individuals secure their financial future through profitable investing, financial education. And this is one of the things that we do. Basically, we are here to help people understand the economy and subsequently make smart money decisions. So today, I'm going to start with something different. While waiting for 9 o'clock, because we do this every week at 9 o'clock. So while waiting for 9 o'clock, I was just looking at my books, and I'm currently reading a book, and it's called The 10X Rule. And it's really talking about what the amount of effort that it requires to produce any form of results, and it's quite an interesting book. So I want to know, tell me in the comment section, what book are you reading? When was the last time you read a book? I mean, for me, I have been guilty of not reading in a while, so let me know something that you are reading right now. I have this book I'm currently reading, and then while looking at it and thinking, okay, what next, I'm trying to read a couple of pages a day, like 10 pages a day. So I'll be done with this book in about 5 days from now, ish. So I was thinking of the next book. I see what the next book is. It's a book written by 50 Cent. It's quite a good one. So tell me, what are you reading? Are you guilty of having many books in your library that you just keep buying, and you don't read them? So yes, I'm one of those people. So I had stopped buying. I'm now trying to start reading what I bought. So yes, off to global news. So tell me in the comment section, what are you reading currently? So yeah, up to the news for today. So on the global world news, both world stage, I dare say, some interesting information out of the UK. So after 14 years, the UK government, or the UK people, the people of United Kingdom, have decided that they want a change in who's steering the ship. And so the Labour Party won the elections. I'm sure we can all see that. Now, I had talked about it last week in terms of, okay, that's political news, but how does it affect you as an individual in terms of your pocket? Because it does. Now, what you need to look at is what the Labour Party is promising. Now, we all know that with politics, not all the things that they promise will be achieved, right? But what are they saying? They're saying they're going to put a cap on taxes, such that they're not going to be increasing taxes like the previous that the Conservatives were proposing. They also say they're going to give more power to the mayors, such that the people that are making the decisions that will directly affect your life as a resident are people close to you. So you can actually walk to your mayor's office or mayor's whatever and have a meeting. You can have town halls and you would get heard. But that one sounds like a lot to push through, but that's what they are proposing. They're also proposing a fund to invest in future industries, or industries of the future, and then they say that based on that it will create 600,000 jobs. But basically, what am I saying here? Look at all the things that they're proposing as an individual that is affected by that economy, and begin to see which one works for you or against you. They're not really clear on their foreign policy in terms of immigration and how it will affect Africans that are trying to move there and all, because there's been so many changes in the past. But we have to keep watching, keep our eyes on the ball, because it will affect your pocket. It will affect your pocket. There's no escaping it. Now, the next news out of we're going to Africa, because the whole global market was quite quiet this week. Quite quiet, I dare say, if that's the word, if it's a proper reflection. And so in Kenya, we're going to talk about Kenya in Africa. Now, Kenya has been through a couple of dramatic weeks, where there's been some protests. The first starting with the fact that there was a finance bill to increase taxes on different things that would affect people directly, and then there were protests, and they're still protesting actually. And on the back of the protest, the president has decided to step down on that bill, like to actually suspend it. Right now, what does this mean for you as an individual watching? It's good that they've pulled down the tax bill, right? They've taken it down. They're saying they're not going to go ahead with it. But guess what? It's just like saying that you have a bill that needs to be funded, but and you're planning to go this way, and they're saying it's not going to work, and you're dancing because it's not. They're not going to increase taxes. But the question is, how is the bill going to be paid? Like, think about it. How are they going to fund their economy. To put it into context, right? Whilst we are happy about the level of growth and the level of development and the stories that are coming out of Kenya, Kenya is still in a bad or a dicey, let me use the word dicey economic situation. To put it into context, deeper context, they had a Eurobond maturity last month and they raised financing to pay back. That means they borrowed money to pay back, which is fine generally. But then they had to take a 500 million loan from the World Bank to pay back that loan out of the 2 billion. Now, what does that mean? It means that there was a 500 million that was shaky. Yeah? And it just shows how fragile, while they are making progress in the right direction and making the right moves, it's actually quite a fragile economy, such that social unrest is the worst thing to ever happen. And I mean, yesterday was quite good because they had a Twitter space chat with their president. Really cool. And one person raised the question, why did you have to wait till the protest got to this point before you listen to people? Why did you have to wait till this point before you begin to make these changes? And it's something that leaders need to understand. The world has changed. Like people are legitimately tired. The economic situation is a major stressor. And it was good because he moved from there was one of their leaders that said, come and meet me in my office kind of thing, right? To a point where the president is apologizing. He's saying he's going to, some people got killed. They're going to find the rogue policemen and stuff. But I think that democracy is evolving. He says, and it was a good outing, I dare say. People were angry, but he calmly responded to everything. It was a good outing for both parties, for the young people who are pushing for the protest and for the president also to actually connect with people and actually hear people out, right? And he says he will do it intermittently, hopefully, but I think it's progress in the right direction in deepening their economy and deepening their polity. But also from an economic standpoint, what now happened is that the stock market crashed. Now, let me explain that. Some people might think it's fear, or it's because there's a protest, people are running. Yes and no. The major thing that will make anybody run away from the stock market is seasoned investor is looking at the policies and the statements that are coming from the president. Now that they have shut down the tax bill, the question is, how are you going to fund the economy? The only other option is to borrow more. Now, if everybody knows that you are desperate and you are coming to borrow, what's going to happen? They're going to make the money expensive. So what's going to happen? Interest rates are going to go up. Now, if interest rates are going to go up, there are two sides to it. Number one, why am I taking high risk with stocks when I can wait for them with my cash and enter fixed income government securities at a higher rate? That's one. So people would sell their stocks. Another thing also is this higher interest rate is going to affect some companies because companies generally need loans to fund their businesses. So what's going to happen? The companies that will be highly affected by higher interest, that will be negatively affected by higher interest rates, you would find that those companies' stock prices are going to crash more than the general market. So why am I saying this? Is because when you see that news of, okay, the stock market crashed because there was and then you tie it to their protest in Kenya, right? You would think, oh, it's people panicking, but no, it's an economic decision. Now, what will make the stock price reverse? When the government or the president comes out with a plan to say, okay, we have this deficit, we are going to cut spending. They've announced some spending cuts, which I don't think are significantly impactful in terms of the naira and kobo or the Kenyan shilling's impact on the economy. But we're going to do some budget cuts, and then we are going to borrow, and we're going to do some JVs, and we have to rebalance it, and then maybe touch taxes a little. When that plan comes up and it's clear where the government is going, you see that people will flow back. But they will now not just flow back to everything, they'll flow back to the stocks that they think, or the stocks that will be positively affected by that news, or that will get some respite based on the announcements. That is actually how it works. It is not just fear. The major drivers of every stock market are the pension funds, the asset managers. Those are the major drivers, the big ticket buyers and sellers. they don't necessarily go with panic, because a sovereign state is a sovereign state. That they have social unrest right now, it doesn't mean that the country is going to come to an end. It cannot come to an end, right? So it's not just panic. This is what drives it. So in your own economic decisions, your own trading and investment decisions, don't just go with the herd mentality, because some people are also, if you are selling, somebody's buying. So think about it, right? So that's one way to understand investing. Hope you've learned something today. I see some people chatting me up. I'll start from Nigerian news and do a recap on the others. So for Nigerian news, the federal government, via the vice president, announced what's it called, a new plan. Not necessarily a new plan, but there's a plan to get to $1 trillion economy by 2030. Sorry, I'm a little destabilized by this whole not hearing me thinking. But anyways, so they decided, so there's a plan, right, to have to get us to a $1 trillion economy by 2030, and the plans are on the way. Now, why am I highlighting it? Because it's very easy, especially when you see everything that is happening around, to say, nah, that's not happening, we're not serious, blah, 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 and all. But what is really happening is that what you need to do is to look at the underlying things. What are the things that they say they are going to do to make, what are the things that the government can actually do to make Nigeria a $1 trillion economy? And there are basically two things: provide access to financing and the right policies. Now, whilst these things do take time in terms of even creating the policies and implementing them and then seeing the impact, you have to understand that when people have been triggered to work, right, and they've started working on a project, you might not see the impact for a couple of years, and then it just happens, right? For example, we are looking at the banking recapitalization. This conversation has been going on and on, back and forth for a couple of years, where the banks need to raise new financing, they need to raise new capital, they need to have bigger balance sheets and stuff. And then in 6 months, boom, we have an announcement and people have started raising capital. Now, what does this whole bank recapitalization mean in terms of this $1 trillion economy, right? $1 trillion economy. The fact is this: you need financing. The banks are the ones that are going to drive the economy. They're going to need bigger balance sheets, bigger capital to be able to drive the economy. So if we are going for a $1 trillion economy, the banks and the fact that they are recapitalizing themselves right now is actually laying a foundation for it. Now, why am I highlighting it? Because we would look and say that everything is going wrong, and in the midst of that, forget to look at what's going right, and forget to position ourselves, which is the most important thing. Positioning yourself for what's coming ahead. So I ask you, if Nigeria is going to be a $1 trillion economy by 2030, which is about 6 years from now, what should you be doing right now to position yourself? Bearing in mind that we can see how African countries have, or even generally, globally, how countries may grow, but citizens may not benefit as much as external parties. Why? Because citizens sit down lamenting on what's happening and do not position themselves. So what am I saying? What is the easiest thing to do? The stock market, there are a lot of announcements. Access Bank just announced their own issue, their own public offering, right? To raise capital. What are we saying? There are opportunities to bank or plug into this future economy, especially if you do not plan to be out of Nigeria in 6 years, or you still plan to have ties with Nigeria in 6 years' time. What are you doing? What's going to happen in 6 years' time? The fact is that if land is 1 million right now and it's in a generally okay location, because of the rate at which we are growing in terms of population and people keeping themselves busy by having children, you know that land, which is a scarce resource, is going to be more expensive. So how are you positioning yourself? There's always going to be noise. There's never a time that the economic environment is going to be all good, tick, 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 head to toe. There will always be noise. But the question to you in all this noise is, what are you doing to position yourself? Like, what are you doing? Are you part of the grumbling? It is understandable, it is justifiable, but it doesn't really work. You can grumble in 2024 and still be grumbling in 2030 if you don't take specific actions, like position yourself, like invest, like save, right? And put your money in the right places, educate yourself. Yeah, those are the things that you need to do. So that's that. Now, on the back of that is just to highlight that Access Bank has announced their public offering, and it's going to be on for a couple of days. So get ready. There's going to be a lot of these announcements, and a lot of the top companies, like the most. I've talked about, if you look going to different previous sessions, we talked about companies and banks that are too big to fail. Most of the banks that are too big to fail are good to go in terms of their stocks. Don't take it like stock advice, but just an easy way to know where to start from. And they would all come out with announcements on their capital raise. So split your money, plan ahead. They are all coming. Which ones do I want to put my money in? Which one do I really care less for? But just know that you need to be positioning yourself for the future. And I will just summarize what we talked about today. We talked about the UK economy. We talked about the UK change in leadership and the things to expect from the Labour Party. We also talked about Kenya and explaining the impact of the actual economic impact of the protest slash cancelling of the tax laws on the stock market, and how it's actually an economic decision, not an emotional decision, and what to look out for to know when it's going to turn. And then finally we came to Nigeria. So thank you, everyone. I am sorry about the issue. I didn't notice the chats early enough, and unfortunately they came so early at 9:01. I didn't see them, but I have a recording of this session. I will post it up. Thank you guys, and have a good weekend. Bye.